Hmm. All right. Welcome to our mid-March meditation. And just before we hit record here, we were chatting about the weather in the various places we're all mm, calling in from. And here in southern Ontario, it's a very warm day and, well, relatively. It's all relative. So all the snow is melting currently and very wet and lots of rivulets and puddles and flow. And I went for a walk up by the dam and uh, yeah, and I can hear outside like the downspouts, or it just sounds like a tap is on, it's just running, running, running. Um, Yeah, so that was just really standing out for me today as a reminder of the elements practice that is part of mm, this whole access another tool in the mindfulness meditation toolbox. Um, and it's part of what's called the first foundation of mindfulness, meaning mindfulness of body. And the elements is one of the parts of mindfulness of body, along with many other contemplations and practices. And usually there's 4 or 5 elements referred to, so typically earth, water, fire, and air, and sometimes space is also included as an element. But today, I mean, I'll mention some of the others just as a way to mm, become embodied in present moment, and then we'll mostly just be focusing on the water element because that's what's standing out today. Uh, and I also want to, as I was reading and contemplating and paying attention to it on my walk and just in the environment around, it really helped with my mindfulness in daily life practice of when I was making dinner. I was just contemplating the water element and all the vegetables as I was cutting them. Like carrot has got so much water in it, and a potato and the peas and all these vegetables. I was just so aware of and just aware of the thinking about the snow that's melted and the rain and that's nourished the soil, that's nourished those plants that are so full of water, that are then going into this body to nourish this body with water. Um, it was really helped me to just be really mindful and present while I was making dinner, just aware of the water element in the food, which of course means, like the Thich Nhat Hanh would say, with the tea meditation, seeing the cloud in the cup, so it's that awareness of rain and snow and evaporation, the whole cycle of any element is part of everything. So it's interesting to practice this way, to take one element or all the elements and just really pay attention to it through the day, and notice the earthiness of as the body's moving and touching and making contact with things, and the air element, just paying attention to one particular element through a day is a really nice, well, I enjoy it anyways. I find it a helpful practice. Um, yeah, so it's referred to in lots of different teachings and suttas. I don't really want to dig into a whole sutta tonight, but there's maybe one in particular where um, the Buddha is speaking to his son Rahula, and did I keep that tab open? Don't know if I did. Click, click, click. There it is. Um, So at this point in this teaching, uh, the Buddha is going out on his alms round with his robe and bowl to receive the meal for the day, um, through the generosity of the community and that whole interconnected support. And his son is also now a monk, and early in the morning put on his robes and carrying his bowl and outer robe also went to Savatthi and was kind of following behind um, the Buddha on their alms round to receive their meal for the day. And then it says, the Blessed One, looking back at Rahula, addressed him, Rahula, any form whatsoever that is past, future, or present, internal or external, so we can contemplate all of these elements internally in the body and externally in the world and in each other and all the forms, whether blatant or subtle, common or sublime, far or near. Every form is to be seen as it actually is, with right discernment, right understanding. And then there's these three phrases that are repeated a lot all through all of the collections of discourses and teachings, and it's these three phrases. This is not mine, this is not myself, and this is not what I am. They sound very similar. This is not mine, this is not myself, this is not what I am, but they're actually quite important distinctions between them. So I'm not going to go into a big teaching on the self tonight, but maybe just point out that these three phrases are referring to three different aspects that are that keep us in suffering, that keep us bound and contracted around creating a self. And so this is not mine is referring to tanha, to craving. It's mine. It's about appropriating and getting something. Taking is the word is tanha, which is craving, which is the cause of suffering. And then the next phrase is, this is not myself, and that is called mana in Pali, and it's more it's considered the taint of conceit. So the first one is craving, and this one is pointing to conceit, which is a sense of identification that this is who I am. And so we can say my thoughts are who I am, my body is who I am, my emotions are who I am. We take this up in all kinds of ways of conceit, of identification that this is who I am. And then the last one is, this is not what I am, is pointing to what's called ditthi, which means views. So it's taking our views and opinions and ideas as being what I am. And so the Buddha is pointing this out to Rahula as they're starting out on their alms round, and then he points him to the teachings of the elements. It goes on from there, but he starts there. So he says, points to this discernment that those three statements about self. And he says, there are these 5 properties, Rahula. Which 5? The earth property, water property, fire, wind or air, and the space property. And so tonight we're going to focus on this water property or element, and how it shows up in the body and outside of the body, and how to use it as a practice of contemplation and stilling, calming, but also especially of wisdom, of waking up to nature, the nature of this body, the nature of our world, and how we appropriate that, how we take what is just nature and natural and interconnected with all of the elements, and how we take it to be me and mine, and some sense of ownership. And so practicing in this way is actually helps us to just see things as they are, conditioned, impermanent, and constantly changing, unreliable. Um, one of one of the founders and guiding teachers and well-loved teachers of True North Insight, Pascal Auclair, I've heard him say that the self, or what we take to be the self, is actually appropriation of nature, and that it's not you that's going to get liberated or me that's going to get liberated, it's everything else. So we're actually liberating nature back to its natural state when we let go of clinging to who we are. And we've taken nature and appropriated it into a sense of me, which I find a helpful reminder. The water element, of course, we know has the nature of flow, of fluidity, of constant movement and changing. It has a quality of smoothness. And it's also considered to have the quality of cohesion. So this, you could see this like, it's often described like when you're making bread, so the flour is like the earth element, and the water is, when you add the water to the flour, it brings that cohesion. You can bind it together, bring it together, hold it together. So it's an element that brings, yeah, cohesion. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say for intro, and we'll tuck into a nice practice with it. So get yourself comfy. Maybe have a glass of water beside you. I've got some water here. And just a reminder to be comfortable if you're here on the call. So if you're listening in after on the YouTube channel, you know, to dim your lights or turn away from the screen, or lay down if you need to. Yeah, whatever is supportive for you in your ease of body and presence of mind. I'm going to just tuck this pillow behind me. Oh yeah, that's better. So once you find your supports that helps you to be relaxed and present, and then begin to bring the body into some stillness. And checking out what posture for the eyes is supportive for your presence and ease. Some prefer practicing with eyes closed, and some with eyes slightly open. whichever position is helpful for you with the eyes, see if the forehead could be wide and smooth. And then we're just going to start here connecting for a few minutes with the earth element, which just means feeling the sense of heaviness with the body, weightedness, the bones heavy, the skin soft, the muscles relaxing and lengthening, belly softening. And as the upper body is relaxing into this earth element, you can feel some more weightedness through the lower half of the body and connection to the ground. And for the practice, this practice today or tonight, just noticing this as the earth element internally meeting with the earth element externally. Heavy, relaxed, grounded earth element, not separate from the external earth element. In fact, if you really pay attention to any point of contact with the ground, you may notice that you can't really feel exactly where quote unquote you end and the cushion begins or the floor begins. And as you feel present, embodied, we'll take a few minutes now to connect to the air element or wind element as it's sometimes called. Just feeling, it could be just a whole body sensation that breathing is happening. And some awareness of this air element internally and externally, completely interrelated. The interbeing of earth and air element, nature being known. Now we'll start to attend to this water element. This is all that is watery, flowing, smooth, cohesive. So we could just take this attention to the area of the top of the head. The skin on the whole body is 64% water. So you may be able to feel the sensation of your skin on your head, on your skull, your face. And just letting an awareness be there that it's more than half water. And inside this skull, the brain is 73% water. Then we can feel the awareness of the moisture of the eyes. The cohesion, the smoothness, the fluidity, the wetness of eyes. Tears. An awareness of the nose and the sinuses and the nostrils and mucus. These are all aspects of water element. And the mouth. We can feel the wetness all through the mouth and perhaps partially down the throat. Just feeling and attuning to the sensations of water element. We can perhaps continue the awareness through the throat and nostrils to the lungs. The lungs are actually 83% water. Of course, all of these things we're pointing to have all of the elements within them. And tonight we're just attuning in particular to water. You might feel a sense of the movement and the moisture of lungs. Another aspect here that is actually pointed to in the teachings is phlegm, spittle, snot, bile. And just notice if these words have associations for you or aversion or whatever. And see if you can just notice and then let go of the story and see the body as it is, comprised of these elements. We can perhaps feel the warmth of armpits and awareness, sweat at times may be present there, that water element of sweat anywhere on the body. And all of the joints of the body. In the teachings, they call it oil of the joints. Synovial fluids and lymphatic fluid of the body, amazing systems. Blood is part of the water element. All of this water element is moving right now, flowing, pulsing. The heart is also 73% water. And even the bones that we think are definitely might not associate that with the water element, they are 31% water. All of the muscles of the body and the kidneys, 79% water. The water element in the gut, in the stomach, in the digestion system and elimination system, urine. The digestive juices, bile. Feel the water element through the torso and all the organs. Perhaps the sensations of cohesion or flow, fluidity, smoothness. And this element continues down the legs, in the bones, in the muscles, in the blood, in the lymph, in the joints, in the skin. The other day I had a cranial sacral treatment where the practitioner was feeling the spinal fluid and the fluids of that are pulsing up around the skull. And so now just resting and feeling the whole body. Internally, water element. this sensation that everything is moving, interconnecting. Now we can include and extend this awareness, the internal water element and the external water element are both simply water element. All of the waters of the earth, the waters from the sky, from the mountains, the oceans, all the plants and animals that are constantly coming into this body through what we ingest and are also being eliminated from the body. It's all the same water element. So that as we connect with this element internally and externally, perhaps it can foster the wisdom experience and knowing that even these thoughts and emotions, sensations, can also be known for their watery nature, their fluidity, interconnectedness, not freezing or holding on to or appropriating anything as being mine, who I am, myself, me and mine, just water element, being known. And as with any element or any anchor of meditation practice, if we notice or when we notice we've solidified around something, or in this case frozen the water element, gotten stuck in some way, when the noticing happens, letting go can happen, flowing again, just opening water element internally and externally, not clung to. As you relax and attune with this element, there may be areas of the body that you can feel sensations of pulse, water element in the blood. You might feel that in the fingertips or other areas of the body. Whole body is 60% water, and it's part of every system, every element of the body. And before, as we move towards transitioning from this practice, we'll come back to connecting again with the earth element in the body. And just gently take your time shifting your attention back to the feeling of groundedness, heaviness, solidity, hardness, firm, structure. So I think it's interesting, I think, and helpful that these words, which we often in our culture want to distance ourselves from. Certainly, if my mother was still alive, she would be gagging at the thought of some of these words. But I find it interesting. It's actually like, this is actually from the Sutta. This one's from Majjhima Nikaya, 62 and 140. But it lists like whatever internally belonging to oneself is water, watery, and clung to. I'll come back to that. And that is, and then it's described: bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, forgot to mention that one, tears, grease, spittle, snot, oil of the joints, and urine. Uh, and this is done quite intentionally to help us um, not be so enamored with this body as being, it's part of the. Uh, there's a whole bunch of other contemplations of charnel ground meditations and demystifying and reifying, like putting the body and me and my body as something separate from these functions and this nature. But what is pointed out here in that phrase is and clung to is in there. So whatever is water, watery, and clung to, and then they list, all these watery functions in the body. It's if it's clung to that it's the problem. And so this meditation is designed to help us not cling to it, to see, oh, this is nature. All these systems and all of the elements, and in particular tonight we're practicing with water element, is the same as the water element that we think is out there and separate from us. And this helps us to not cling to it as taking it up as this is me and mine and who I am. And so then it says, when one sees, one becomes disenchanted. Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable, so sorry if I cut out there. One becomes disenchanted. So this is, again, it's trying to break us out of the enchantment, to like, makes me think of like a Disney movie or, a Disney princess being all enchanted with and enamored with youth and beauty and all that stuff. So one becomes disenchanted with, in this case, the water element, and makes the mind dispassionate towards the water element. So passion in this case is pointing to the clinging to it, the craving, and yeah. So these can be deeply liberating practices and meditations, to just see nature as nature, and but also can be used as I don't know if I would say a concentration practice, but definitely a mindfulness practice, and a wisdom practice for sure. So for folks that are joining us on the YouTube channel, I'll put a link down below for a retreat that's coming up if you happen to see that in time, which you might not, March 21st. And there'll be links down below as well to support myself or True North Insight as you're able. And am I here next week? Yes. There'll be another one next week, and then teaching retreat the one after that, so there won't be. So I'll just say good night to the folks on YouTube, and then we'll turn off the recording and check in with folks that are here on the Zoom. So thank you if you've joined us in YouTube land.